where we eventually need to let go of the sensing process. And so I was kind of missing that in my training. And I think that's influenced my work with teaching BMC and dance a lot, because I never leave people lying on the floor after a bodywork exercise. We always take it into movement facilitation and improvisation and movement research, because the sensory and the motor need to be in balance. So where am I now? So I ended up moving back to Amsterdam I was invited to join the faculty of the School for New Dance Development in 1996. And I had been teaching a lot in Europe, and had the opportunity there for about 10 years to work with international dance students who were amazing, and to develop what they call the exploration arm of the training. So at that time, the director of this school was really interested in having more BMC in the school, and she had this idea about dance education as being a hologram, where I think there were 5 different areas of study. If I can remember, there were technique, improvisation, composition, exploration, which they later changed the name to research, and theory. And so I was teaching exploration and improvisation, and the exploration work I was teaching was BMC based. And so it was just an enormously exciting opportunity for me to work with a lot of talented dancers and basically develop strategies for helping dancers to use the BMC work as the ground for movement research, and look for ways of developing movement in the creative process that were really their own. And so each choreographer finding their own voice, their own strategies, their own movement vocabulary, and it was super fun. So that's my time. Okay, let me just wrap it up here. I guess the last thing I want to say is that for me, the key to the work is learning to focus our attention. And that active perception is the key to being able to create work, which is what I'm really interested in, and create dances which don't necessarily look like what we learned from our teachers or what we saw that we really liked in the theater last month, but to learn to pay attention to our physical experiences in ways that allow the material to stay fresh and current and creative.
Yeah, don't worry about it. We're gonna move right on to this next question. We're doing great. Hopefully there's questions popping everywhere. That's the way we want it. Don't worry.
As long as people understand it's not just flying semantics to dance.
Yeah, sure.
As long as semantics can be applied to anything, and I wanted to clarify that. We've been talking a lot about dance, but
Yeah, no, only because this is a very focused kind of how do we apply somatics to dance situation. But yeah, it can apply to anything, eating peanuts or sleeping or
Crackers.
There's that, yeah. All right, so yeah, wonderful presentation. So there's like one major question that I really just wanted to have a chance to get the 3 of you to speak to, which is this, and I will read this long question that I made. Bringing it back to the Bay Area, if we think about the history of dance and somatics in the Bay Area, you can think of Anna Halprin and Sarah Shelton Mann as really obvious pioneers of people who are very much integrating dance and somatics in their own ways, to things like Feldenkrais and the many Asian modalities, which actually, Carol, is something you brought up that I thought was really interesting, of holistic training like acupuncture, acupressure, qigong, tai chi, shiatsu. I don't even know what to name, but there's so many of them that are present here. So thinking of all those things, thinking of the connection to the contact improv form, how do all of you feel that you link yourself in any way to this particular Bay Area history? What are your connections to the Bay Area dance and somatic scenes. And also, since many of you have kind of international connections as well, other ways in which there are interesting ways that you connect your connections to the outside world to your Bay Area somatics and dance activities.
I mean, I think that for me, I could explain that I have a very kind of sloppy life for a long time. After I left SFB, and now I have this rather legitimate position, but for a long time I think that the Bay Area affords you a place to not fit in exactly. You know, there's very different people with different gender, different this and different that. So I had the time to not have a very good looking life. I had a friend come and say, I'm very disappointed in what you're doing. I can't believe you're doing this. But that was my time sitting in the studio. I sat for 10 years in a dance studio doing a lot of other work related. But, and I had a very cheap apartment, and I lived like a monk, really studying my work. And I've always been my own laboratory, as I've said. And I think that I just graduated from college this year. You know, I'm really not well educated formally, but I've done a lot inside, and I think that the Bay Area actually gave me that opportunity. It was acceptable here to do that, and I think some other places I may have been, well, and people even say this now, you should be getting your master's in this, or this is a doctorate subject, or blah, 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 but I think that is actually an important part of being in the Bay Area for me, that tolerated my way of learning to come to this.
Yes. I feel like after New York and spending a lot of time in Europe, the Bay Area for me was a place where I felt was integrating the spiritual, the political, and the arts in a way that I feel like Europe and where I was in New York, I didn't feel that kind of integration in the way that I feel here. And it's tied into a little bit what you were saying, that there's something going on in the Bay Area that allows, maybe it's the non-border thing, maybe it's, there's so much that it's allowed. Sometimes that can be, that can go against dance here, because you're saying we tolerate a lack of definition. Yeah, that we create our own definitions, that we there's a support here in a certain way for that kind of thing that feels really liberating and also provides a space to really research, you know, and work on things. On the other hand, what I've enjoyed or what I've missed sometimes about New York and Europe is that I think there's more of a critical intellectual dialogue going on in those places, and compared to here. I'm speaking really generally, and forgive me because I consider all of you, I know so many of you here, and I respect your intellectuality a great deal and the discourses I've had with all of you, but I'm speaking generally, and so I think those are the main things. I would use the word support and space and research and, yeah, and pleasure. There's something sensuous about the Bay Area that allows for sensuality rather than extreme heady rigidity. I don't know, I could use lots of names for it. And I love parts in, you know, I go back to Europe and New York all the time, so.
Oh, I don't know what to say. It's a very difficult question for me, yeah. Having spent most of my dancing life in Europe and on the East Coast, I danced in New York a lot too. It hasn't been an easy transition for me to come back to the Bay Area, and I think I've been really confused by a lot of the work that I've seen here because of that lack of boundaries that you're talking about between genres, between the personal, the political, the artistic, aesthetic. You know, I don't know what to say, but it's interesting, and I do feel, I guess, you know, the thing for me that's very positive about living here is I feel like I have permission